The Andromeda expanse was quiet, almost serene, a deceptive calm that stretched across the swirling tendrils of the Charon Nebula. Light from distant stars scattered through the dense gas, refracting into ghostly shafts across the hulls of the human scout fleet. Captain Aidan Riker leaned against the command console of the Intrepid Resolve, squinting at the sensor blips dancing over the display. "Well," he muttered, a crooked grin tugging at his lips. "Look who decided to show up. The galaxy's finest ego parade, marching straight into our backyard." Lieutenant Marachin, tactical officer, arched an eyebrow. "Captain, multiple warp signatures detected. They're massive." Aidan's grin widened. "Massive, yes. Predictable? That's about to be tested." Even as he spoke, the stars outside rippled. A series of massive warships emerged from the nebula, sleek and angular, glinting coldly in the filtered starlight. The Galactic Empire had arrived, an intimidating formation, all guns and discipline, cutting through space like a blade. Their comms channels buzzed with formal, measured threats, but the humans remained calm. Some laughed quietly, others tapped at consoles with a confident rhythm. "Sensor sweep indicates they're attempting a blockade," Chen said, her fingers dancing across the holographic interface. "If they align in standard formation, we'll be trapped in the northern quadrant within minutes." Aidan pressed a finger to his temple. "Then we won't let them align, will we?" He tapped a sequence into the ship's AI. "Bring up the decoy signatures. Rotate the fleet along the gamma vector. Let's see how fancy uniforms handle chaos." The Intrepid Resolve shivered as its engines flared, slipping through the nebula's gaseous filaments. Behind them, the smaller scout vessels followed Aidan's lead, forming shifting, unpredictable patterns. Nebula dust refracted laser scans, creating the illusion of dozens of phantom ships. The Empire fleet adjusted, but the humans had already vanished from expected coordinates, leaving nothing but a trail of false signals. Meanwhile, aboard the Empire flagship Vel's Pride, Admiral Serac Vel's eyes were icy, his jaw tight. He stood in the command deck, flanked by officers who barked orders and analyzed streams of data. "These humans..." Serac's voice was low, controlled, but with an edge that betrayed frustration. "They've evaded fleets far larger than ours. Containment is mandatory. Adjust formation delta, intercept at point 37 theta. Do not allow escape." "Yes, Admiral," one officer replied, though doubt flickered across his face. Serac ignored it. He had faced chaotic species before, but never one so audacious, so unyielding in their defiance. Back in the human formation, Chief Engineer Rami Soren leaned over a console, fingers flying across the interface. "Captain, the decoy matrix is ready. We can mimic 32 additional ships. Nebula interference will give us another 15 seconds of invisibility." Aidan's eyes gleamed. 15 seconds is an eternity in the right hands. "Let's dance, shall we?" The first shots fired were subtle, a probing volley meant to test human responses. The lasers streaked through the nebula, ricocheting against pockets of charged gas. Human ships slid between the beams with astonishing precision, engines singing, shields flaring in brilliant arcs of energy. A few blips signaled minor impacts, but nothing catastrophic. Chen's voice was sharp but tinged with admiration. "They're anticipating every move, Captain. It's almost like they know us." Aidan chuckled. "Maybe we're just smarter than they thought. Or maybe they're trying too hard to play by the rules." One of the scout ships, Resolute Echo, cut through the edge of a plasma storm, using its volatile energy fields to mask its trajectory. The Empire vessel trailing it fired blindly, unable to predict the sudden warp burst that shifted the ship across 3 kilometers in an instant. Serac's frustration was palpable. He slammed his fist against the console. "Impossible! They should be pinned, yet their formation, it's fluid. Adaptive. Focus all firepower. Do not allow another escape." Rami, monitoring the energy feedback, called out, "Captain, we've got a clear path through the northern ridge. Minimal exposure. We could turn this into a trap." Aidan's grin was sharp. "Trap, yes. But let's let them think they're in control first." He gestured to Chen. Initiate Phase 1. Let them chase shadows while we thread the needle. The fleet surged forward, weaving between floating rock fragments, plasma pockets, and ionized filaments. Each maneuver was calculated, yet it appeared chaotic to the Empire's eyes. Ships spun in loops, decoy signatures multiplied, and the Empire's cannons found nothing but ghostly echoes. In the command room, crew members exchanged looks of exhilaration. Even the AI companion, a calm voice in the sea of action, added a dry remark. Probability of enemy interception, 12.3%. Recommend maximizing evasive tactics for 100% confidence. Aiden smirked. Oh, we'll get them to 0% real quick. As the Empire fleet struggled to regain order, the humans pressed their advantage. Sensors picked up the subtle weakness in the Empire's formation, a misalignment in the energy shielding between the lead and trailing ships. Rami's fingers danced across her console. If we synchronize a phase pulse through the ridge, we can destabilize their formation. They'll collide if they don't adjust immediately. Aiden tapped the final command sequence. Let's remind them why humans don't play by the rules. A sudden pulse of energy coursed through the nebula ridge. Empire's ships shuddered, alarms blaring, as kinetic dampers strained under the sudden interference. Ships swerved, narrowly avoiding collisions. In the midst of chaos, humans laughed, not with arrogance, but with the pure exhilaration of a challenge met and overcome. Chen leaned back, exhaling. They're panicking. Good, Aiden replied, leaning against the console. Let them think they've caught us. The fun has just begun. From the nebula's edge, human ships twisted and shifted, a shimmering, untouchable formation that defied expectation. The Empire fleet, for all its size and power, found itself chasing shadows and echoes, outmaneuvered at every turn. The intrepid Resolve slipped through the last pocket of nebula haze, engines flaring with controlled intensity. Aiden looked over the bridge, surveying his crew. Pride and confidence shone in their eyes. Not a single human ship had fallen. Not yet. And the Empire had no idea what hit them. The nebula's glow shifted, twisting light across the human fleet like a living tapestry. Outside, the Empire fleet struggled to maintain cohesion, their massive warships shivering under the residual turbulence of the phase pulse. On the bridge of the intrepid Resolve, Captain Aiden Riker studied the swirling formation on the tactical holomap, lips curled in a confident smirk. Phase 1 is a success, he murmured. Time to make them work for the next one. Lieutenant Chen's fingers danced over the interface. Sensors show their energy shields realigning. They're patching gaps, but the formation's integrity is compromised. We could leverage that. Leverage, yes, Aiden said, eyes glinting. But let's make it fun. Let them think they're in control while we weave the trap. Chief Engineer Rami Soren leaned over the console, eyes intense. Captain, the northern ridge can support a phased gravity pulse. If timed with our decoy signatures, we can force a choke point without losing a single ship. Aiden's grin was sharp. Choke point it is. Let's show them how humans think outside the template. Outside, the Empire flagship Vel's Pride pulsed with activity. Admiral Serac Vel paced, hands clasped behind his back. Why are they so elusive? Every maneuver we anticipate, they've countered twice over. Deploy reconnaissance drones. Adjust weapon vectors. I will not allow them to slip away. A junior officer hesitated. Admiral, the probability of intercepting their fleet in this sector is decreasing exponentially. They anticipate every vector, every shift. Then you are not thinking hard enough. Serac snapped. His voice carried the weight of absolute command. They may be clever, but numbers and discipline will prevail. Focus. They will not escape. Back aboard the intrepid Resolve, Rami initiated the pulse. The ship hummed with controlled energy, channels glowing blue as the gravity waves rippled across the ridge. The decoy fleet surged forward, shimmering with spectral signatures, while the real ships slipped through the unlit pockets of nebula gas. Chen's voice was sharp but excited. Captain, their fleet is funneling into the ridge. They're taking the bait. Aiden leaned forward, fingers brushing the console. Good. Keep them busy. Timing is everything. The first Empire's ships entered the gravity field. Their massive hulls groaned under the invisible pressure, shields straining to compensate. Beams lanced toward decoy signatures, only to meet empty space. The pulse shifted slightly, nudging the Empire vessels into near collisions with asteroid fragments concealed in the nebula haze. Alarms rang across their decks, crews scrambling to compensate. Rami's eyes gleamed. They're trapped in the field's edges. A slight nudge and we can destabilize their formation completely. Aiden's grin was cold and precise. Then let's nudge. A simultaneous command across the fleet, pulse, decoy, maneuver, all synchronized. The Empire fleet's cohesion faltered. Ships collided with minor hull breaches, energy lines flickering. Within minutes, the massive task force designed to intimidate humans had become a tangled web of chaos. In the midst of the confusion, Aiden's comms channel buzzed with a crackling voice. Captain Riker, this is Commander Taller of the Resolute Echo. Suggestion: a secondary diversion at Vector 14B. It could draw their reinforcements into the ridge's gravity trap. Aiden tapped the response. Brilliant, Taller. Execute immediately. Let's make their retreat inconvenient. Even as the humans executed their plan, personal stakes simmered below the surface. Rami glanced at the holomap, jaw tight. Captain, the Empire's second wave, it's carrying the Class 7 disruptor arrays. If they fire, the ridge won't just trap ships, it will annihilate them. Aiden's eyes darkened for a fraction of a second before the familiar grin returned. Then we don't give them the chance. Prep the ridge countermodulators. We turn their own tools against them. Outside, the pulse intensified, and the Empire fleet struggled to maintain alignment. Vel's Pride's weapons fired blindly, energy beams cutting through nebula gas, only to strike harmless pockets of decoy projections. On board, Sirac's face tightened. Impossible, he growled. They should be contained, yet they remain mobile. Reinforce Vector 3, do not let them escape. The intrepid resolve twisted gracefully through the gap in the ridge. Chen's voice was calm but tinged with excitement. Captain, the secondary diversion has drawn 3 cruisers directly into the gravity pulse. They can't maneuver without risking collision. Aiden's hands moved over the console like a conductor guiding a symphony. Let's make them dance. Inside the trap, the Empire's ships groaned, shields straining, thrusters burning at maximum output. Energy pulses from the humans' fleet destabilized their formation further, nudging vessels toward asteroid clusters. Sparks of plasma flared as shields failed, and alarms shrieked across their decks. Amid the chaos, Rami's voice carried a personal edge. Captain, I've waited for this. My family lost to their raids, now we get to fight back on our terms. Aiden's gaze met hers, silent acknowledgement passing between them. Then let's make it count. Every calculation, every move, every second. Chen's fingers flew across the interface, guiding ships into subtle shifts, ensuring the Empire fleet had nowhere to hide. Captain, they're attempting emergency warp. I estimate less than 10 seconds before the vector collapses. Aiden's grin sharpened. Then we make those 10 seconds unforgettable. He tapped the final sequence into the system. Pulse modulation synchronized with gravity wave. Engage. The nebula ridge pulsed violently, its energy field bending, twisting, and redirecting the Empire vessels like marionettes. Beams of light flared as ships collided, shields overloaded, and massive engines flared with sudden strain. For a moment, silence hung over the humans' fleet, then the coordinated hum of engines, laughter, and relieved chatter filled the bridge. Chen exhaled, shaking her head. Captain, they're retreating. Their fleet, it's broken. Aiden leaned back, eyes scanning the holomap, still alert. Broken, yes, but not finished. They'll regroup. They always do. But right now... He paused, voice soft but resolute. We laugh first. Rami slumped into her chair, exhaustion and exhilaration washing over her. First real victory, and it feels perfect. The intrepid resolve drifted past the last pocket of nebula haze, engines humming a steady, confident rhythm. Outside, stars reflected off their hulls like scattered diamonds. Humans were alive, clever, and free. And for the Empire, the realization was already dawning: they had underestimated them. Aiden tapped his console lightly. They came to trap us. We came to show them who really writes the rules in this corner of the galaxy. The fleet's laughter echoed across comms channels, small but unyielding. And somewhere, deep in the shadows of the nebula, the Empire recalculated, frustrated, and, most dangerously, angry. The game was far from over. The remnants of the Empire fleet lurked at the edge of the Charon Nebula, twisted silhouettes against the glowing gas clouds. Their shields flickered, engines labored, and their formation teetered between discipline and chaos. On the bridge of the Intrepid Resolve, Captain Aiden Riker leaned against the console, arms crossed, eyes gleaming with anticipation. "Looks like the galaxy's top brass decided to show us their stubborn side," he muttered. "Time to remind them who writes the rules here." Lieutenant Mara Chen's hands danced across the controls. "Captain, sensors indicate all major Imperial vessels are still operational, but they're scattered. Their tactical coordination is deteriorating." Aiden tapped his chin thoughtfully. "Good. We don't just survive, we define the fight. Let's make this unforgettable." Chief Engineer Rami Soren joined him at the console, eyes scanning the readouts. "Captain, the Class 7 disruptor arrays from their second wave, they're attempting realignment. If they fire, the ridge will collapse and we could take serious damage." Aiden's grin was sharp. "Then we don't give them the chance. Deploy countermodulators. Let's use their own firepower against them." Outside, the Empire flagship Vel's Pride surged forward, massive thrusters flaring. Admiral Serac Vel's face was pale, jaw tight. His officers barked orders in rapid succession, but the humans had anticipated each vector, each tactical adjustment. For the first time, Serac's absolute control felt powerless. "They laugh at us," a junior officer muttered, disbelief and frustration coloring his tone. Serac's eyes burned with fury. "Then we make them regret it. Focus all firepower, target the command ship. Do not let them escape." Aiden watched the enemy's movements on the holomap, noting their overcorrection. "Chen, Taller, mark vectors 6 through 9. Rami, synchronize the decoys with a phased warp overlay. Let's guide them where we want." "Vectors marked. Overlay active," Chen confirmed. "They're taking the bait." The human fleet surged forward, weaving through asteroid clusters and ionized gas pockets with fluid precision. Decoy ships shimmered in spectral patterns, drawing the Empire vessels into traps without revealing the real fleet's position. The nebula itself became a weapon, gravity wells bending enemy trajectories, plasma currents masking human maneuvers. Aiden's voice carried across the bridge, calm and cutting. "Remember, precision first, audacity second. Chaos will follow naturally." A distant pulse resonated across the fleet as the Empire's disruptors powered up. Rami's hands flew over the console. "Countermodulators online. Disruptor arrays locked in our null field. Any firing attempt will rebound." "Perfect," Aiden said, leaning over to tap a sequence. "Let's turn their own pride into their downfall." The first salvo erupted from Vel's Pride, beams of destructive energy lancing toward the humans. They struck nothing. The null field absorbed and redirected the energy, sending plasma flares back toward the Empire fleet. Screams and alarms echoed across enemy columns. Ships shuddered as shields strained, then failed in blinding arcs of light. Chen's voice was taut with exhilaration. "They're taking heavy damage. Shields failing across 3 cruisers." Aiden's grin widened. "Then let's nudge a few more into the dance." Through the chaos, Rami coordinated a risky move. "Captain, I can channel auxiliary power into the ridge's gravity well. It'll destabilize their largest ships, 2 capital vessels, possibly 3. Aiden didn't hesitate. "Do it. Take no prisoners." The ridge's gravity pulse surged outward, forcing the Empire vessels off course. Collisions were narrowly avoided, but engines flared, shields overloaded, and the massive ships struggled to maintain formation. The humans, nimble and precise, darted through the gaps with ease. From the comms channel, a voice crackled. "Captain, the Empire flagship is breaking formation. They're retreating." Aiden's eyes narrowed, savoring the moment. "Good. But don't relax. We finished strong." He issued a final command, and the human fleet executed a sweeping maneuver, flanking the disoriented vessels. Decoy ships shimmered like ghosts, drawing enemy fire, while real ships struck from angles the Empire hadn't anticipated. Vel's pride shuddered as its systems strained against the coordinated human assault. Sirac's face went pale, disbelief etched into every line. "Impossible," he growled. "They should be trapped, yet they maneuver freely. This defiance, it cannot be." One of his officers spoke, voice shaking. "Admiral, they're laughing at us." Sirac's hand clenched the railing. "Then we withdraw. Fall back. Regroup. We will not lose to humans." Aiden watched their retreat, the Empire fleet scattering like frightened predators. He leaned back, eyes sweeping the holomap. The humans were intact, victorious, and unbroken. Chen exhaled, a mix of relief and disbelief in her voice. "They're gone. For now." Aiden's grin softened into something warmer, more human. "For now, yes. But they'll think twice before chasing us into our playground again." Rami slumped into her chair, finally allowing herself a smile. "We did it, all of us. Every move, every calculation, it worked." Aiden nodded, surveying the crew. "It's not just about survival. It's about showing the galaxy who we are." Outside, the stars reflected off the ship's hulls like scattered diamonds. The nebula's tendrils shifted in quiet celebration, or so it seemed to the humans who had earned this moment. "Captain," Chen said quietly, almost in awe, "they'll be back. They always come back. But now we're ready." Aiden's grin returned, broader than ever. "Then we greet them with the same lesson: never underestimate humans. Ever." Even Rami, usually reserved and pragmatic, allowed herself a laugh. "We didn't just survive. We owned it." Aiden's eyes scanned the horizon, calm but vigilant. "And that's just the beginning. Humanity doesn't just adapt, we redefine the rules. And this corner of the galaxy? It's ours for now. Let them stew in their arrogance while we chart the stars." Chen tapped her console, bringing up the fleet's trajectory. "Captain, sensors detect an uncharted system nearby. Could be a perfect staging point for our next move." Aiden's grin sharpened, that familiar spark of audacity lighting his eyes. "Then that's where we go. Always forward. Always clever. Always human." The intrepid resolve led the fleet toward the new system, engines humming with quiet confidence. Laughter and chatter echoed across the calm channels, not of arrogance, but of pride, skill, and unity. The humans had faced the galaxy's mightiest fleet and survived, not by force alone, but by intelligence, adaptability, and courage. Above them, the stars stretched endlessly, indifferent yet magnificent. Humanity had carved a place within them, daring, bold, and unyielding. And in the void of space, the laughter of humans carried further than any laser, more enduring than any threat. Admiral Sirac Vel's retreating fleet would regroup, but the lesson was clear. Humans were not to be underestimated. Ever. And in that truth, Aiden Riker and his crew found something far greater than victory: the certainty that the galaxy would never forget them.